The most famous people in the world have usually done the most different things. The most feared murderers of history have also done something different and have their names on the list of infamous people in history. The existence of famous serial killers in different periods and at different places has always caused people to panic and also created irreparable problems. Do you know who is the biggest killer in the world or the most famous killer in the world? Join us to this video to introduce 3 of the biggest serial killers in the world. Theodore Robert Bundy was an American serial killer who kidnapped, raped, and murdered many young women in the 1970s and possibly earlier. After more than a decade of denial, he confessed to 30 murders committed in 7 states between 1974 and 1978. The total number of his actual victims is unknown and is likely to be much higher. In January 1989, he was executed by electric chair at Florida State Prison. In 2019, a film directed by Joe Berlinger and starring Zac Efron as Bundy Ted called Super Evil, terrifyingly evil and vile, and in 2021, a film directed by Amber Stilly and starring Luke Calabri as Ted Bundy and Elijah Wood in Billy Hagmia's role has been released under the name of God. He was a serial killer, rapist, kidnapper, thief, and undead who attacked and murdered thousands of women in the 1970s. It is possible that his crime started even before this date. After more than a decade of denial, he confessed to murdering more than 30 young women between 1974 and 1978, shortly before his execution. The actual number of murders committed by him is not fully known. Bundy is described as having good looks and charismatic personality. These 2 characteristics helped him gain the trust of his victims. In many cases, he would approach women in public places, posing as someone with an injury or disability and ask them for help with something. He would use the tactic to lure them to a scheduled place. In some cases, he would appear as a police or fireman and use his fake legal power to escort with victims. In some cases, he returned to the scene of the crime many times and spent hours decorating the corpus and filtering with it. This meeting with the rotting corpus continued until the stench of the corpus or the attacking of wild animals made it impossible to get closer to it. He had beheaded at least 12 victims and kept the several heads in his apartment for a while as a memento. In a few cases, Bundy entered the victim's house in the middle of the night and killed the women in their sleep with fatal blows. Ted Bundy had a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree in law. According to Bundy himself, raping and sexually abusing satisfied his desire to possess his victims to the fullest extent. At first, they killed his victim because it was a wise move to eliminate the possibility of getting caught. But later, killing became part of the adventure. The ultimate in possessing a victim is to take their life and then process the typical remains. He explained. Bundy trusts Special Agent William Hagmaier of the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit. Hagmaier was shocked to find Bundy's feeling about murder, which he found to be deeply satisfying, even mystical. Hagmaier recalls. Bundy said, after a while, killing is not crime you committed out to loss on anger. Killing becomes a crime. They are a part of you, become a part of you, and you become one of forever. And the land where you killed them, the way you killed them, or left them there become scary to you and you have to always get back to it. Bundy told Hemingway that his early years he was just an amateur killer, someone who kills on a spur of the moment. In January 1989, Ted Bundy was executed by electric chair at Rayford, Florida. Biography Anna Roll described him as an antisocial sadist who enjoyed the suffering of others, the control he exercised over his victims until death and beyond. Holly Nelson, one of his lawyers, described Bundy as a headless devil.
I grew up in a wonderful home with two dedicated and loving parents, one of 5 brothers and sisters. A home where we as children were the focus of my parents' lives, where we regularly attended church, 2 Christian parents who did not drink, they did not smoke, there was no gambling, there was no physical abuse or fighting in the home. That basically, I was a normal person. I wasn't some guy hanging out at bars or a bum. I wasn't a pervert in the sense that, people look at somebody and say, I know there's something wrong with them, and just tell. I mean, I was essentially a normal person. I had good friends. I led a normal life, except for this one small but very potent and very destructive segment of it that I kept very secret and very close to myself and didn't let anybody know about it. And part of the shock and horror for my dear friends and family years ago when I was first arrested.
The Zodiac Killer is the nickname of a Northern California serial killer who committed serial murders between the 1960s and early 1970s. The Zodiac Killer is one of the greatest unsolved serial murders of all the time. Zodiac's identity was never identified or revealed. Zodiac killed his victim is Benchia, Veljo, Lake Gracia, and San Francisco between December 1968 and October 1969. Most of his victims were young people and women between 16 and 29 years old. The killer chose the name Zodiac based on the strange and scary letters he sent to the press in the San Francisco Bay Area. The killer Zodiac wrote more than 20 letters to communicate with the police, 4 of which were coded with medieval ciphers, symbols, and signs. Among these 4 coded letters, only one of them has been fully decoded. The second letter was also deciphered in December 2020. So far, many suspects have been named by law enforcement officers, but there is no conclusive evidence in this regard. Although police questioned more than 2,500 people, the cause of the Zodiac Killer was never officially solved. The decoded letters are 480 and 340 characters. Undecoded letters have 32 and 13 characters. At first, the detectives tried to publicize in the hope that someone would be able to break the codes. And on TV, a couple who were history teachers saw the letter, and with the trick that this letter was from a serial killer. The word kill must be found somewhere. Kill. And after finding this word, they succeed in decoding the 4,800 character letter, although they could not decode the last 19 characters of the letter. The second letter was decoded by a supercomputer with the help of engineers and mathematics. They believe that what caused the decoding to take so long and so many failures in this way is that the Zodiac wrote its unencrypted letters with many spelling mistakes and encoded them with the same carelessness. The symbol used by the Zodiac in this letter. In one of his letters, the Zodiac Killer claimed to have killed 37 people. However, researchers only confirmed 7 victims, 2 of whom survived. The confirmed attacks had 2 following similarities. These murders took place on weekends on public holidays. With an exception, the victims were students or students traveling in Paris. Most of the murders took place at dusk or at night. These murders were committed in or near a car. The killer used a different weapon each time. Crime scenes were usually remote places that were mostly visited by lovers. It does not appear that these murders were financially motivated and the victim was not sexually abused. The perpetrator of these crimes has confused to his murders through phone and letters. The crime scenes were located in the San Francisco Bay Area. Most of these murders took place near water. Jeffrey Dahmer, his parents were Christian fundamentalists, and when Jeffrey was 18 years old, they separated after years of fighting. He committed his first murder in 1978, just a few days after graduating from high school. Dahmer invited a 19-year-old boy named Stephen Hicks to his home, but eventually killed him because he didn't want Stephen to leave. Jeffrey later attended Ohio University but was expelled after 2 semesters. Then he joined the US Army, but after 2 years he was discharged from the army due to excessive drinking. After this incident, he went to Miami Beach, Florida because he could not face his parents and was tired of the cold. Between June 1978 and July 19, 1991, he brutally slaughtered 70 men. He was also fond of cannibalism because he believed that by eating the flesh of his victims, they would come back to the life inside them. Dahmer was finally arrested on July 22 in 1991 while cheating on another man. During the attempted murder, this person managed to escape and turn himself into the police. The Milwaukee butcher, who was eventually sentenced to life in prison, was murdered by cellmates on November 28, 1994. Although Dahmer had poor eyesight, he never wore glasses during the trial because crowds made him anxious. He was an ardent fan of the Star Wars and exercise series, so much so that he sometimes even made people watch these movies with him before killing them. As a child, Jeffrey gave his favorite teacher a jar of baby frog, but the next day he found out that the teacher had given the frog to another boy. He was very angry because of this. He sneaks into the boy's house and killed the frogs by pouring gasoline in their trunks. Contrary to the remorse that Dahmer entertained his friend with human flesh, he himself always considered those stories to be false. Even in prison, he tried to call one of his neighbors and reassure her that this is not true, but she left his calls unanswered. One of these colleagues claimed in an interview, "It didn't matter how much you disagree with him on an issue. He could always conceive you and bring you to this side." According to Patrick Kendi, Jeffrey received money, cigarettes, and hundreds of letters on a daily basis from men and women who were infatuated with him and sometimes even wanted to be friends with him. The only victim that Jeffrey had planned to kill at once and had no memory of how he killed him was 26-year-old Stephen Toomey. He met Stephen in a bar and invites him to his hotel room. But the next night, when he wakes up, Toomey's lifeless body with his chest sunken by punches and blood dripping from his mouth shocks him. He also has to amputate Toomey in the same hotel and transport him outside in a large suitcase. While moving the body, a taxi driver who came after Jeffrey complains about the heavy weight of the suitcase and jokingly says, "What's in this suitcase? Corpus?" "Yeah," Jeffrey simply replies. Dahmer once accidentally drank a sleeping pill he had made for one of his would-be victims, and when he woke up, he found that the person had stolen $300, pills, a camera, and several other items. Dahmer said about his 12th victim, "We have spent the whole weekend together. Can you believe it? It was exactly like a real relationship. We made love, we walked in a park together, bought food and cooked together. For a moment, just a moment, I felt like everything was okay. I felt that my life was normal. I felt that this one will not leave me anymore, and I don't need to hold him by force." But when it was Sunday night, he said that he was going to leave here by bus tomorrow morning. He was said that he could not leave his job. "I knew I couldn't keep him with me forever, so I put a sleeping pill in him drink, and when he passed out, I had slept with him one last time. Then I killed him, exactly like all the previous people." The number of mental illnesses Dahmer suffered from during his short life is shockingly high. Disease including depression, borderline personality disorder, schizophrenic personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, obsessive compulsive personality disorder, necrophilia, and sexual sadism. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed from this video, but it was very dark, and if you have any more more information about these people or another people, you can post it in the comment for us, and we can make another video if you want, and we can talk about it. And it's our pleasure to make the video that you like. Thank you guys. Don't forget subscribe and like the video. It is a very supporting activity for us, and share it with your friend if you have. And thank you. Take care of yourself. We will see you soon. Goodbye.